我作为游戏开发者，我干过游戏的美术，也做过游戏。
Before this begins, I just want to give you a heads up. Our guest was not comfortable taking the interview in English, so this entire thing was held in Chinese instead.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the?
No, don't worry. I have translated everything he said as accurate as I'm capable of. Aaron and Max will help me voice over the translations. So, enjoy! Our interview guest is one of my father's friends. He was previously a game developer, but has now retired. What did you do as a game developer?
I focused on game art design in my early days. As I became more experienced in game development, I started working on project managing, programming, and investing. I have over 20 years of game developing skills.
What game companies have you worked for in the past?
Electronic Arts, also known as EA, was the company I worked for. Later, I moved to Ubisoft. Finally, the last company I worked for was Tencent.
Wow, that is very impressive. What inspired you to become a game developer, and how did you get into tycoons like Tencent?
Back in 1999, when I graduated from university, I was very interested in computers, especially making models of objects, and animations. I also really enjoyed watching cartoons made by computers. There weren't many game companies in China at the time, so I studied 3D art and worked as a designer, designing visual models of buildings. Even after 3 years of that, I was still hoping to get into the game industry. So I immigrated to Canada and managed to get enrolled into EA. I learned many things during my time in it, including art designing, programming, and planning. After another 3 years of the game industry in China was beginning to grow. So I returned to China and joined Tencent. And for 10 years I worked on a project management and game development. I worked a bit for Ubisoft since it's owned by Tencent.
What software tools do you use most often during your work?
For designing, I use a software called Autodesk Max. 3D Max is tailored towards architecture, making buildings, and designing interiors. For animations, I used Autodesk Maya. It is for character models and animations. They were powerful softwares back then, and many gaming companies used them.
What are some common problems you faced while working with Autodesk 3D and Autodesk Maya?
At that time, I didn't think there had any common problems or anything. But looking back on them after 10 years with more advanced technologies, there is actually a huge problem with this software. If you wish to learn it, it requires a lot of time and a very high entry ceiling for beginners. Proficient use requires a lot of training, so only after, let's say, 4 or 5 years of learning, you can finally have some mastery over it. So it takes a lot of time and money because you have to train your workers to use it.
With new softwares and programs released in the recent years, have the advancement in technology made the same job easier?
Absolutely, yes. It is much easier to do the same thing now compared to back then. Let's say you wanted to build a face model of a character. You can simply take a model of a real person, put them under a 3D scanning machine, and you would have automatically generated 3D model within seconds. And in the past, making an animation was more time consuming, as we all know, by hundreds and thousands of frames per minute in animation, adjusting position frame by frame to to make animation, and it was a very labor-intensive job. Nowadays, there's something called motion capture, which you can just take a person, give him specialized equipment, and it will capture his every movement three-dimensionally. You can also directly import these movements into your animations, so I'm not exaggerating when I say game development is 10 times easier now compared to back then.
How do different departments on the development team collaborate with each other?
Before you make the game, you have to plan everything out. Forming ideas like what kind of game you want to make, what will the gameplay be like, etc. All of the ideas are written down on a detailed document, kind of like a movie script. After everything is planned out, the artist will begin designing characters and art that are based on the planned ideas. Finally, you can make the game after the art is finished. For example, making the animations, coding the mechanics, and rewarding the players for beating a level. So basically, the game designers outline an outline, the artists make art based on the outlines, and the programmers make the game using art produced by the artists.
What is your personal favorite game of all time?
Okay, I have contributed to many projects during my time as a game developer. I think my favorite is FIFA. Everyone knows this game has lasted more than 20 years now. I think FIFA is loved by the players because the gameplay is straightforward. You control a player on the ball and try to score and try and beat the other player. But it has a very steep learning curve and various ways to express skills. The same goes for games like League of Legends. The mechanics are very simple, yet the simple mechanics are what makes it challenging. Everyone knows how to play it. The successful video games are the ones that are simple and replayable at the same time.
What would you say was the most challenging part of your career as a game developer?
As one of Tencent's investment partners, our job is to invest in other small companies that have an interest in game design. So, when one small company has an interesting design, we recruit artists and coders to make the actual game. This is very difficult since we have to constantly keep track of the progress of this project until it turns into an actual playable game. The hardest part is that because our jobs as investors, some people may criticize us for stealing ideas, but at the same time, we are basically trying to support games that have the potential to be successful, but may never see the light of day due to financial issues.
What advice would you give someone who is interested in becoming a game developer?
My suggestion to them is to play a lot of games throughout different genres. If you are a person that likes video games, just stick to being a gamer and play whatever you like. You don't have to be a developer, but if you do wish to work in the game industry, it's not nearly enough if you just play 3 of your favorite video games. You need to expand your experience to many other game genres, because playing games is not the same as making games. Other than it will be possible for you to come up with new ideas and enter the industry. Second, as a game dev, you should learn to take elements from other games that you find interesting in your game. But obviously, playing a lot of games is still not enough. You must learn to condense your experiences. You have to think about the reasons why this specific game is so popular and what ways you can adapt. Put it in a nutshell, not only should you play a lot of games, you need to be good at thinking and summarizing to form your own ideas.
So, what are your thoughts on VR? And do you think it has the potential to replace how we play games right now?
VR, or virtual reality, is basically games that are more realistic. Since the beginning, video games have been developing in the direction to feel more and more similar to our real world. VR brings us closer to that. Wearing a head-mounted device, and you can experience everything in 360 degrees. It really feels as if you are in the game itself. Another thing I would like to bring to this conversation is the metaverse. I believe the metaverse is not solely limited to video games. You can do everything immersively there, whether it's watching a movie, exploring the seabed, or traveling around the solar system. But the metaverse is really just one of VR's future potentials. So, I see VR more as a direction for development and less as a device. I firmly believe that VR is the future of video games. But, as for now, it has not matured yet, and there is still many improvements that can be made. For example, the headset is extremely heavy and very uncomfortable. It also makes your head dizzy after using it for a short while. So, if you wish to make progress on VR, the first step is to improve the hardware first. In the future, I can imagine VR headsets becoming thinner, maybe just as thin as a pair of glasses.
What was the latest major development in game technology?
We have all probably heard of AI, heard of the new generation of artificial intelligence like ChatGPT. These can do a lot, helping you answer questions, generate essays, and even art. You can even describe some simple games like Snake.io to the AI, and it will generate art materials, animations, and even source codes for you. Some basic art and programming have already been replaced by AI. These AIs will continue to have a great impact on us, both in a good way and a bad way.
This episode of Video Games Are Us was translated and edited by me, Leo, with lots of additional help on the questions and voiceover from my group members, Aaron and Max. The music was taken from the games Animal Crossing and Minecraft. If you want to learn more about us, check out our website. It's videogamesrusca.wordpress.com. Follow us on Instagram too. Link on the website. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good one.